The sun shone with a red glow over New Sol, the first human city on Proxima Centauri. The colony was only 10 years old, but already over 10,000 people called it home. Among the tall buildings and clean streets, humans worked to build a new world far from Earth. Officer Ta Kim stood at his post at the northern border checkpoint. He checked his gun and adjusted his uniform. From his station, he could see the edge of the human settlement and the beginning of the lands where the Nari lived. The Nari were the native aliens of this planet. They looked a bit like tall, thin humans with blue skin and 4 arms. Most humans found them strange. Tai did not like the Nari. He thought they were sneaky and could not be trusted. 3 years ago, when he first arrived on this planet, a group of Nari had stolen supplies from the human colony. Since then, Ta believed all Nari were thieves. His boss had told him many times that most Nari were peaceful, but Ta did not listen. Another boring day, Ta said to himself as he looked through his binoculars at the border. Then he saw something that made him angry. A young girl with black hair was setting up some kind of display near the border. She was putting up a sign that read BLM in big letters. What is this now? Ta grabbed his radio. Control, I have a situation at North Border Post 3. A teenager is setting up some kind of protest near the Nari lands. I'm going to check it out. The radio crackled. Copy that, Officer Kim. Proceed with caution. Tai called for his K-9 unit, a large dog named Rex. Rex was not a normal dog. Scientists had changed his genes to make him smarter and stronger than Earth dogs. Rex could understand complex commands and even track people by their unique smell from miles away. Come on, Rex, Ta said, clipping a leash to the dog's collar. Let's go see what this troublemaker is doing. As they approached, Tai could see the girl better. She looked about 16 years old and wore simple clothes, blue pants and a red shirt. Around her, she had set up small sculptures made of metal and stone. In the center was the BLM sign, painted in bright colors. Hey, you, Ta called out. What do you think you're doing here? The girl turned around. She had a kind face with dark eyes. She smiled at Ta. Hello, officer. I'm setting up an art installation. My name is Jin Park. Ta frowned. This is a restricted area. No one is allowed to set up anything within 50 meters of the border. And what is this BLM business? Are you trying to cause trouble? Jin's smile faded. No, sir. BLM stands for beings, life, meaning. It's a peace movement. We want humans and Nari to understand each other better. Ta laughed. Peace movement. The Nari don't understand peace. They only understand stealing and lying. Jin looked sad. That's not true, officer. The Nari have their own culture and ways. Most of them want to be friends with humans. Ta pointed at her sign. Take this down now. This area is for security patrols only. But I have permission, Jin said, reaching into her pocket. The Colony Arts Council approved this project. Stop, Ta shouted, putting his hand on his gun. Keep your hands where I can see them. Jin froze, her eyes growing wide. I'm just getting my permit, officer. I don't care about your permit. This is a security matter. Ta unclipped Rex's leash. I'm going to have Rex check your belongings. If you have nothing to hide, you won't mind. Jin looked at the dog and then back at Ta. Officer, please. I'm not doing anything wrong. This is an art project about peace. Peace. Ta spat the word. We tried peace with the Nari. It doesn't work. Now step back from your bags. Rex moved forward, sniffing the air, but something strange happened. As the dog got closer to Jin, he stopped. His ears went flat against his head. He made a soft whining sound. Rex, forward, Ta commanded. The dog didn't move. Instead, he sat down and looked at Jin with his head tilted. Jin smiled softly at the dog. Hello, Rex, she said in a gentle voice. It's okay. I won't hurt you. Tai felt his anger grow. What are you doing to my dog? Nothing, officer. Some of us born on this planet have a connection with the enhanced animals. It's a genetic thing the scientists are studying. That's nonsense, Ta said, moving forward. Step away from the dog and put your hands behind your back. You're coming with me to the station. Jin's face showed fear now. Please, Officer Kim. I'm not breaking any laws. Call the Arts Council if you don't believe me. Tai reached for his handcuffs. You know my name. Have you been watching me? Are you some kind of Nari spy? No. Everyone knows the border officers. You've been on the news. For catching Nari thieves, Ta said proudly. And now I'm catching their human helpers. As Ta moved closer, Rex suddenly stood between him and Jin. The dog wasn't growling, but he wouldn't move. Rex, what's wrong with you? Ta tried to push past the dog, but Rex stood firm. Jin looked at Ta with sad eyes. He senses I'm not a threat. Enhanced animals can feel emotions. Nonsense. Ta reached for his radio. Control, this is Officer Kim. I need backup at North Border Post 3. I have a situation with a possible Nari sympathizer. Before Control could answer, another voice came through the radio. Officer Kim, this is Colony Headquarters. Stand down immediately. Ta froze. Colony Headquarters never used the patrol radio. This had to be serious. Identify yourself, Ta said into the radio. This is Director Han of Colony Security. We have been notified of a situation at your location involving Jin Park. Is she there with you? Ta looked at Jin, who was quietly petting Rex. The dog seemed completely calm now. Yes, sir. She's setting up some kind of protest at the border. BLM signs and strange sculptures. There was a long pause on the radio. Then, Officer Kim, Jin Park has full authorization for her art installation. The project was approved by Governor Park himself. Tai felt confused. Governor Park? What does the governor care about some teenager's art project? Jin looked up at him. Governor Park is my father, Officer Kim. Tai felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Governor Du Park was the most powerful person in the colony. He had just been appointed by Earth's government 3 months ago to lead the entire Proxima Centauri settlement. Your father? Ta could barely speak. Jin nodded. Yes, he believes art can help humans, and Neri understand each other better. That's why he supported my project. The radio crackled again. Officer Kim remained at your location. The governor is on his way to you now. Tai felt sick. He had just threatened the governor's daughter. He had called for his K-9 unit to intimidate her. His career was over. In the distance, Tai could see a flying vehicle approaching fast. It was the kind only used by the colony's top officials. As it got closer, Ta could see the colony flag on its side. Jin stood up and brushed dirt from her clothes. Rex stayed by her side, looking peaceful. Don't worry, Officer Kim, Jin said quietly. My father is a fair man. He won't punish you just for doing your job. But Ta wasn't so sure. As the vehicle landed nearby, he tried to think of what to say. How could he explain his actions? The vehicle's door opened, and Governor Du Park stepped out. He was a tall man with graying hair and a serious face. He wore a simple dark suit with the colony's symbol on the chest. As he walked toward them, Ta stood straight and saluted. It was all he could think to do. Governor Park nodded at Ta, but went straight to his daughter. Jin, are you okay? I'm fine, Dad, Jin said. There was just a misunderstanding. Governor Park looked at the art installation, then at Ta, and finally at Rex, who was still sitting calmly by Jin's side. Officer Kim, the governor said, his voice deep and calm. I think we need to talk. Ta nodded, unable to speak. He wondered what would happen next. Would he lose his job? Would he be sent back to Earth in disgrace? But the look in Governor Park's eyes wasn't angry. It was something else, something that looked almost like hope. Officer Ta Kim stood straight as Governor Park approached him. Todd expected anger, maybe even shouting, but the governor's face remained calm. "Walk with me, Officer Kim," Governor Park said, gesturing away from the art installation. Ta followed, his legs feeling heavy. Rex stayed with Jin, who was fixing her BLM sign that had tilted to one side. When they were out of earshot, Governor Park stopped and turned to face Ta. "You've been on the Border Patrol for 3 years, correct?" "Yes, sir," Ta answered, his mouth dry. "And in that time, how many Nari have you arrested?" Ta stood taller. This was something he was proud of. 23, sir, more than any other officer." The governor nodded slowly. "And of those 23, how many were actually found guilty of a crime?" Ta blinked, confused by the question. I don't know, sir. That's for the courts to decide." 4, Governor Park said. "Only 4 were found guilty of any crime. The rest were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time." Todd felt his face grow hot. "Sir, with all due respect, the Nari are sneaky. They know how to avoid getting caught." Instead of getting angry, Governor Park sighed. "Officer Kim, do you know why I appointed you to this post?" "Because of my record, sir. I catch more Nari than—" "No," the governor interrupted. "I specifically requested you for this border post." Tay's mouth fell open. "You requested me?" "Yes, your file showed someone with strong feelings about the Nari. I wanted to see those feelings for myself." Todd didn't know what to say. The governor had been watching him. "Come back with me," Governor Park said. "There's something I want to show you." They walked back to where Jin was working. The BLM sign now stood straight, and Jin was arranging small stone figures around it. "Jin," the governor called, "would you show Officer Kim what you were trying to explain earlier?" Jin smiled and nodded. She knelt down and patted Rex on the head. "Rex, can you help me show Officer Kim what we can do?" The dog looked at her with intelligent eyes. Then, to Ta's amazement, Rex walked over to one of the stone figures and picked it up carefully in his mouth. He brought it to Jin, who took it and placed it in a different spot. "Good boy," Jin said. "Now, can you bring me the blue one?" Rex looked at the collection of small sculptures and picked up a blue stone shaped like a bird. He brought it to Jin without hesitation. "That's just training," Ta said, though he was impressed. "Any good K-9 unit can follow commands." Jin shook her head. "Rex, how do you feel about Officer Kim?" The dog looked at Ta, then back at Jin. He made a soft whining sound and pawed at the ground. "He says you're afraid," Jin said. "Not of me or the Nari, but of failing, of being wrong." Todd felt a chill run down his spine. "That's impossible. You can't talk to dogs." Governor Park put a hand on Ta's shoulder. 3 years ago, we discovered something remarkable about children born on this planet. The combination of Proxima Centauri's radiation and the planet's magnetic field affected their brain development. Some of them, like Jin, can sense the thoughts of enhanced animals. But that's science, Officer Kim. Not magic, not lies. Just science we didn't understand until recently. Jin stood up and brushed dirt from her knees. "It's not just talking to them. It's more like feeling what they feel, and them feeling what I feel." Todd looked at Rex, who was sitting calmly beside Jin. This was the same fierce dog that had helped him catch Nari for 3 years. Now he seemed like a different animal. "This is what the BLM project is about," Governor Park explained. "Beings, life, meaning. Understanding that different beings can communicate in ways we never thought possible." Jin nodded excitedly. "And the best part is, the Nari can do it too. They've been communicating with the local animals for hundreds of years. That's what I'm trying to show with my art." Ta looked at the sculptures more carefully now. Each one showed a Nari and an animal working together. "But what about the thefts?" Ta asked. 3 years ago, when I first arrived, Nari stole supplies from the colony." Governor Park's face grew serious. Yes, that did happen. But what you weren't told was why. Our colony had accidentally built over a sacred Nari site. The items they took were things they believed belonged to their ancestors. Tai felt like the ground was shifting under his feet. Everything he had believed for 3 years was being challenged. Sir, with respect, why are you telling me all this? Why not just fire me for threatening your daughter? Governor Park smiled. Because Jin said we should talk to you. She said Rex trusted you, even if you didn't trust others. Jin nodded. Rex knows you're a good person, Officer Kim. You're just afraid of what you don't understand. Before Tai could respond, his radio crackled to life. All units, we have a situation at the eastern border. A group of Nari have crossed into the colony. They appear to be carrying weapons. All available officers respond immediately. Ta grabbed his radio. This is Officer Kim at North Post 3. I'm on my way. Governor Park held up his hand. Wait, let me come with you. Sir, it could be dangerous, Ta protested. Which is why we should go together, the governor said firmly. Jin, stay here with your security detail. Jin nodded, but then said, Dad, take Rex with you. He can help. The governor looked at Ta. What do you think, officer? Will you work with Rex, understanding what you know now? Ta hesitated only for a moment. Yes, sir. Rex is the best K-9 unit in the colony. They took the governor's vehicle to the eastern border. It was much faster than Ta's patrol car. Rex sat in the back, alert and ready. As they approached, they could see 6 Nari standing at the border checkpoint. They carried long staffs that could be mistaken for weapons. Stay in the vehicle, sir, Ta said as they landed. Let me assess the situation first. To his surprise, the governor nodded. Be careful, but remember what we discussed. Ta got out with Rex by his side. The border officers had their weapons drawn, facing the Nari who stood perfectly still. Officer Chen, report. Ta called to the officer in charge. 6 Nari crossed the border without permission, Officer Chen said. They're carrying unknown objects and refuse to leave. Ta looked at the Nari. They were tall with blue skin and 4 arms. Their faces showed no emotion that a human could read. Have they said anything? Tai asked. Just that they need to speak to someone in authority. We told them to go back and use proper channels. Tai thought for a moment. Then he looked at Rex. What do you think, boy? Are they dangerous? Rex looked at the Nari, his ears perked forward. Then, to everyone's surprise, he wagged his tail. Lower your weapons, Tai ordered the other officers. But sir, that's an order, Officer Chen. The officers reluctantly lowered their guns. Tai approached the Nari slowly, with Rex beside him. I am Officer Kim, he said clearly. Why have you come here today? One Nari stepped forward. It was taller than the others, with markings on its blue skin that might have been signs of age or rank. We come for the day of understanding, the Nari said in halting English. The governor's child invited us. Tai was surprised. Jin Park invited you. The Nari nodded. For art showing. For BLM. We bring sacred staffs to share. What Tai had thought were weapons were actually ceremonial staffs, decorated with colorful stones and feathers. Tai turned to see Governor Park approaching from the vehicle. Governor Park, Ta called. These Nari say they were invited by Jin for her art project. The governor smiled broadly. Yes, they were. I apologize for the misunderstanding. These are the elders of the nearest Nari village. They agreed to participate in the cultural exchange. The Nari elder bowed to Governor Park. We come in peace, as agreed. Ta looked from the governor to the Nari, finally understanding. This wasn't an invasion or a threat. It was a planned meeting that no one had told the border patrol about. Officer Chen, Ta said, please radio all units that there is no threat. These Nari are official guests of the governor. As the situation calmed down, Ta noticed Rex walking up to the Nari elder. The other officers tensed, but Ty held up his hand to stop them from interfering. The Nari elder knelt down to Rex's level. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Then Rex did something Ty had never seen before. He gently placed his paw on the Nari's hand. "The animal speaks without words," the Nari elder said, looking up at Ty. "He says his human is learning to listen. This is good." Ty felt something change inside him at that moment. A wall that had stood for 3 years began to crumble. Governor Park stood beside him. "This is just the beginning, Officer Kim. There's so much more to discover." Ty nodded, watching as Rex and the Nari seemed to communicate in their own silent way. "I think I'm ready to learn, sir," he said quietly. The next morning, Officer Ty Kim sat in his small apartment, staring at his uniform hanging on the door. His shift would start in 1 hour, but he wasn't sure if he should go. After yesterday's events, would he still have a job? What would the other officers say? His phone beeped with a message. It was from Colony Headquarters. "Officer Kim, please report to Governor Park's office at 900 hours instead of your regular post." Tay's stomach tightened. This was it. He was going to be fired or sent back to Earth. He put on his uniform anyway. If he was going to face the governor, he would do it as an officer, with dignity. The government building stood in the center of New Seoul. It was the tallest building in the colony, with windows that reflected the red sunlight. Ty had never been inside before. At the front desk, a young woman greeted him. "Officer Kim, the governor is expecting you. Please follow me." They rode an elevator to the top floor. Ty tried to keep his face calm, but his heart was beating fast. The governor's office was large with big windows that showed the entire colony. Governor Park sat behind a desk made of dark wood. To Ty's surprise, Jin was there too, sitting in a chair to the side. Rex lay on the floor beside her. "Officer Kim, thank you for coming," Governor Park said, standing to greet him. "Please, sit down." Ty sat stiffly in the chair in front of the desk. "Sir, before you say anything, I want to apologize for my actions yesterday. I was wrong to threaten your daughter." Jin smiled at him. "It's okay, Officer Kim. You were doing your job as you understood it." Governor Park nodded. "That's what I want to talk to you about, officer. Your understanding of your job." Ty prepared himself for the worst. "I've reviewed your file carefully," the governor continued. "You're one of our most dedicated officers. Your physical training scores are excellent. Your attention to detail is remarkable." Ty blinked in confusion. These didn't sound like the words of someone about to fire him. But Governor Park said, his voice growing more serious, "Your understanding of the Nari is based on fear and misunderstanding. That's not entirely your fault. The training for Earthborn colonists has been lacking." "Sir," Ta wasn't sure what the governor meant. Governor Park stood up and walked to the window. "When I was appointed governor, Earth's government gave me one main task: make peace with the Nari. Not just avoid war, but create true understanding between our species." He turned back to Ta. "That's why Jin's BLM project is so important. It's not just art. It's the beginning of something bigger." Jin leaned forward in her chair. "Dad, can I tell him about the program?" The governor nodded. Jin's eyes lit up with excitement. "Officer Kim, we're starting a new program called the Cross-Species Communication Initiative. We're going to train people and enhanced animals to work with the Nari." Governor Park returned to his desk. "And I want you to be part of it, Officer Kim." Ty almost fell out of his chair. "Me? But I'm the last person who should work with the Nari. I'd spent 3 years treating them like enemies." "Which is exactly why you're perfect for this," the governor said. "You know security procedures better than anyone. And more importantly, you showed yesterday that you can change your mind when presented with new information." Ty remembered the moment at the eastern border, when Rex had put his paw on the Nari elder's hand. Something had changed in him then. "What exactly would I be doing in this initiative?" Ty asked. Jin answered excitedly. "You and Rex would train with me and a group of Nari elders. You'd learn their language and customs. You'd help create new security protocols that respect both human and Nari needs. And most importantly, Governor Park added, you'd show other officers that change is possible. Your example could transform our entire security force. Ta thought about his fellow officers. Many of them shared his old views about the Nari. Could he really change their minds? What if I fail? Ta asked honestly. Then we try something else, the governor said simply. But I don't think you will fail. Rex got up from his spot by Jin and walked over to Ta. The dog put his head on Ta's knee and looked up at him with intelligent eyes. He trusts you, Jin said softly. And the Nari elder from yesterday asked specifically if you would be part of the program. Todd was shocked. The Nari asked for me. Why? They have a saying, Governor Park explained. The strongest bridge is built from the hardest stone. They believe that someone who overcomes strong prejudice becomes the strongest ally. Ta looked down at Rex, then at Jin, and finally at the governor. When would this start? Today, if you're willing, Governor Park said. The Nari elders are waiting at Jin's art installation. They want to show you something. An hour later, Ta found himself back at the border where everything had started yesterday. But now, instead of being alone with Rex, he was part of a strange group. Governor Park and Jin walked beside him. 3 colony scientists followed, carrying equipment. And walking calmly on the human side of the border were 5 Nari elders, including the one who had touched Rex yesterday. What exactly are we doing here? Tai asked Jin. Watch, she said, pointing to the borderline where the human territory ended and the Nari lands began. The oldest Nari elder stepped forward. It held one of the decorated staffs from yesterday. With its 4 hands, it placed the staff exactly on the borderline, half on human land, half on Nari land. Then it spoke in a mix of English and Nari language. Where 2 territories meet, we find not division, but connection. The elder pressed something on the staff, and suddenly small lights began to glow along its length. Is that technology? Tai asked, surprised. I thought the Nari were a simple tribal species. One of the scientists laughed. That's what we all thought at first. But the Nari have their own technology, just different from ours. They use biological components that we're only beginning to understand. The Nari elder motioned for Rex to approach. Jin nodded encouragingly, and the dog walked up to the glowing staff. When Rex was close, the lights on the staff changed color from blue to green. The Nari elder made a sound that might have been a laugh. Good connection, it said in broken English. Animal understands. Then the elder looked at Ta. Officer come. Touch staff. Ta hesitated, looking at Governor Park. The governor nodded. Slowly, Tai approached the glowing staff. When he was standing next to Rex, the Nari elder motioned for him to put his hand on the staff. Tai reached out carefully. The moment his fingers touched the smooth surface, something strange happened. A warm feeling spread up his arm and into his mind. Suddenly, he could feel Rex's presence, not just the physical dog standing beside him, but something deeper. He could sense the dog's curiosity, loyalty, and intelligence. And beyond that, he sensed something else, something alien but not threatening. It felt ancient and wise. Ta gasped and pulled his hand away. The feeling immediately stopped. What was that? He asked, his voice shaking. The Nari elder's 4 hands made complex gestures. That is how we speak to each other without words. How we understand the animals of our world. How we will understand humans, if you let us. Jin stepped forward. This is what I've been trying to show with my art, Officer Kim. The BLM movement isn't just about peace between species. It's about finding new ways to communicate. Ta looked at his hand, then back at the staff. And this is what you can do all the time. Without the staff, he asked Jin. She nodded. Only with animals so far. But the Nari believe that with practice, humans born on this planet might learn to communicate with them directly too. Governor Park put his hand on Ta's shoulder. Now you understand why this is so important. Imagine a future where humans and Nari don't need translators or words to understand each other. Ta looked around at the group, humans, Nari, and Rex watching him closely. Yesterday, he would have seen the Nari as threats. Today, he saw them as teachers. I want to try again, Ta said, turning back to the staff. The Nari elder made a gesture that might have been approval. Brave officer, good beginning. Ta placed his hand on the staff again. This time, he was ready for the strange sensation. He closed his eyes and focused on the presence he felt beyond Rex, the alien consciousness of the Nari. Hello, he thought as clearly as he could. And to his amazement, he felt a response, not in words, but in a feeling of welcome that needed no translation. 3 months had passed since that day at the border. Officer Ta Kim stood at the colony's main gate, watching as a ship landed on a landing pad. This ship was bringing new colonists from Earth, and Tai was part of the welcoming committee. But Tai was not the same person he had been 3 months ago. His uniform was different now. It had the regular security patches, but also a new symbol on the shoulder. A circle with human, Nari, and animal figures joined together. It was the symbol of the Cross-Species Communication Initiative. Rex sat beside him, alert but calm. The dog also wore a new vest with the same symbol. Nervous? Jin asked, walking up to stand beside him. At 16, she had become one of the most important people in the colony. Her BLM art installation was now a permanent landmark, and she taught classes on animal communication to both humans and Nari. A little, Tai admitted. These people are coming from Earth with the same ideas I had when I first arrived. They've been told the Nari are primitive and potentially dangerous. Jin smiled. That's why you're the perfect person to greet them. You can tell them the truth because you've lived both sides of the story. The ship's doors opened, and people began to walk down the ramp. They looked tired after their long journey. Many stared in wonder at the red sun and the strange plants around the landing area. And then they saw the Nari. Standing calmly next to Governor Park were 3 Nari representatives, including the elder who had shown Ta the communication staff. The new colonists stopped, some backing away in fear. This is our cue, Ta said to Jin. He walked forward with Rex beside him. Welcome to New Seoul, Ta called out to the group. I'm Officer Kim, and I'll be your guide today. A nervous-looking man raised his hand. Officer, there are aliens here. Is it safe? Tad remembered asking the same question when he first arrived. Yes, sir. The Nari are our neighbors and partners. They're here to welcome you to their planet. Their planet? A woman asked, holding her child close. I thought this was a human colony. Governor Park stepped forward. This is a shared world, he said kindly. Humans and Nari live here together, each with our own territories, but working as one community. The colonists looked uncertain. This was not what they had been told on Earth. Ta motioned to Rex. Allow me to show you something that might help you understand. He led Rex to stand before the group. This is Rex, an enhanced K-9 unit. 3 months ago, I used him to patrol the border and keep the Nari away from our colony. Now, we work with the Nari. Ta nodded to the Nari elder, who stepped forward carrying a smaller version of the communication staff. The colonists tensed, but Tai held up his hand. Please watch, he said. The Nari elder activated the staff, and it began to glow with soft green light. Rex walked up to it and placed his paw on the staff. The elder put one of its 4 hands next to Rex's paw. Then, to the amazement of the new colonists, the staff projected a small hologram above it. The hologram showed scenes from around the colony, humans and Nari working together to build new structures, children from both species playing games, and animals helping with various tasks. What you're seeing comes from Rex's memories, Jin explained to the colonists. The staff translates thoughts into images we can all understand. One of the colonists, A young woman with short black hair stepped forward. That's impossible. Animals don't think like we do. Ta smiled. That's what I used to believe too. But on this planet, we've learned that communication takes many forms, some we never imagined possible. Jin turned to the young woman. Would you like to try it yourself? The woman hesitated, then nodded slowly. Jin led her to the staff. Just place your hand here and think of your journey to our planet. When the woman touched the staff, the hologram changed to show a crowded spaceship, a sad goodbye to family on Earth, and the mixed feelings of fear and hope that came with starting a new life on a new world. The woman pulled her hand away, her eyes wide. That's exactly what I was thinking. How did it know? The Nari elder made a sound that Tai now recognized as laughter. Not know. Feel. Share. Understand. Over the next hour, Tai and Jin helped the colonists understand their new home. Some were still afraid, but many were curious. A few even tried using the communication staff with the Nari elder. Later that day, Ta walked with Governor Park back to the government building. You did well today, the governor said. 3 months ago, would you have believed you'd be welcoming new colonists alongside the Nari? Ta laughed. Never. I would have said you were crazy. And now? Ta looked up at the red sky of his new home. Now I understand what Jin's BLM sign really means. Beings, life, meaning. All living things have meaning, even if we don't understand them at first. Governor Park nodded. That's why I wanted you for this job. You didn't just change your mind. You changed your heart. When they reached the government building, Tai was surprised to see a crowd gathered outside. Humans and Neri stood together, looking at something on the wall. What's going on? Tai asked. The governor smiled. It's the unveiling of the new colony charter. Jin suggested it, and the council approved it unanimously. They joined the crowd. On the wall was a large metal plaque with writing in both human and Nari languages. At the top was the symbol of the Cross-Species Communication Initiative. Jin stood beside the plaque, explaining it to a mixed group of human and Nari children. The new charter says that all beings on this planet have rights, not just humans. It says we will respect each other and learn from each other. A Nari child raised one of its 4 hands. Does this mean I can visit the human school? Jin nodded. Yes, and human children can visit Nari schools too. We'll learn together. Tai felt something warm inside his chest. 3 months ago, the idea of Nari children in human schools would have terrified him. Now, it seemed like the most natural thing in the world. Rex nudged Ta's hand with his nose. What is it, boy? Tai asked. The dog looked toward the edge of the crowd where a human family stood apart from the others. It was the same nervous man from the landing pad, still looking uncertain. Tai understood. Come on, Rex. We have more work to do. He walked over to the family, Rex following close behind. Hello again, Ta said to the man. I saw you were standing apart from the crowd. Do you have questions I can answer? The man looked embarrassed. I'm still not sure about all this. On Earth, they told us the Nari were dangerous. Ta nodded. I understand. 3 months ago, I would have told you the same thing. But let me ask you something. Do you trust dogs? The man seemed confused by the question. Yes, of course. Ta pointed to Rex. This dog has saved my life more than once. He's one of the smartest beings I know, and he trusts the Nari. Sometimes we need to learn trust from those who see more clearly than we do. Rex wagged his tail, as if agreeing. Would you like to meet a Nari family? Tai asked. No pressure, no communication staff. Just a simple hello, like you'd meet any new neighbor. The man looked at his wife, who gave a small nod. Okay, he said. We can try. As Tai led the family toward a group of Nari, he caught Jin's eye across the crowd. She smiled and gave him a thumbs up. In that moment, Ta knew that his journey had come full circle. From fear to understanding, from hatred to hope. All because a girl had put up a sign at the border that said BLM and refused to take it down. Beings, life, meaning. 3 simple words that had changed everything. Rex trotted happily beside him, heading toward a future where the borders between species were fading away, one conversation at a time.